The Washington Examiner. Amy Walter, national editor for the Cook Political Report, and Washington Post columnist Marc Thiessen. Okay, Marc, thoughts?
I know that we're just weeks away from the most important election in the history of the Republic, but it is shocking to me how quickly some people on the left have gone to blaming Donald Trump for this. The idea, I mean, Philippe Reines, the people you just quoted didn't actually name him. Philippe Reines said, quote, "This is on you with every fiber of your rotten being you've incited and condoned hate." So, I mean, the idea that Donald Trump is responsible for these attacks is patently absurd, any more so, by the way, than the idea that Hillary Clinton was responsible for the shooting of Steve Scalise. Because if you recall, the shooter in the Steve Scalise case, he tweeted out that the Republicans, Trump is a traitor and the Republicans are the Taliban. And Hillary Clinton during the 2016 campaign compared Republicans to the Taliban, compared Donald Trump to the Nazis, said the Republicans were the enemy she was most proud of next to the Iranians. That rhetoric does not mean she is responsible for political violence. There is the problem we have in this country is that there is hatred and vitriol in our politics that is coming from both sides. And none of these politicians are responsible for the acts of a crazy person who goes and tries to blow up somebody or shoot somebody. But if we are concerned that our politics is becoming so hateful that it could get somebody killed, then maybe both sides should cut it out. Because there's enough blame to go around on both sides.
And there were calls for that, and we'll see what the president says at this rally tonight in Wisconsin. Didn't cancel it. Those rallies are kind of off the cuff, and we'll see how he addresses this issue.
Yeah, I mean, this idea, I think it was Mayor de Blasio or the Governor Cuomo saying about we got to be civil. Well, we crossed that bridge a long time ago. We haven't been civil in a long, long time. And all of us, I'm sure, have gotten Twitter messages sent to us that are terrible and are not civil. The way we talk to each other anonymously is not okay, and it's been going on for way too long. What I'm upset about, I think, was that I wasn't surprised by the fact that this actually happened, that whether these bombs would have gone off or not, but that something that would lead to incredible violence and potentially death and could happen in this country based on political opinions or the belief about somebody's political ideology. The fact that it didn't surprise me actually is really, really sad and depressing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there are a lot of things that have been happening recently. Senator Susan Collins recently got a letter that said it had contained ricin to her home in Maine. It did not, but there were a number of letters that went out in that similar vein. This is happening. Fortunately, today, these packages didn't explode.
Well, first, I mean, the most important thing you have to say is this kind of criminality has no place in our politics and should be punished very severely. But the next thing to say is that it's hard to say more because we don't know who did it. And if you want to instantly politicize this, it's a good idea to remember that sometimes when the facts are known, the event does not end up being what it originally seemed. Right. So there is a possibility that the person behind this is a violent, uneducated, MAGA hat-wearing Trump supporter. But there is also the possibility it could be more complicated than that. I would point everybody to, not very long ago, there was a wave of threats at Jewish community centers early in the Trump years. There was instant speculation that the person who did it was motivated by Donald Trump's rhetoric. It turned out to be two people. One was a young African-American man who wanted to get back at his ex-girlfriend. The other was an Israeli Jewish teenager living in Israel. It didn't turn out to be what we originally thought. So that just says that we should all be careful until the forensics people, the investigators, actually find who did it.
Yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of folks on my Twitter feed and Rush Limbaugh and folks on the right saying that this is some Democrat trying to make it like there are mobs on the right and the left and take away the news cycle from the caravans and everything else. What we don't know is where this is going. And investigators are going to follow it up, hopefully quickly.
No, that's exactly right. And to add to Byron's point, I mean, if you remember in 2010 when there was that car bomb in Times Square, Mayor Bloomberg at the time said this is probably somebody who was angry about the health care bill, and it turned out to be a terrorist, an Al-Qaeda terrorist or an ISIS terrorist. So, you know, again, we need to find out who it is, but we, at the same time, whether there was this is because of political speech or not, the political speech and the culture of contempt in our country has been really really awful. And I think all of us on the right and the left should do our best to try and stop that, and it starts with ourselves.
I will say in 2016, Mayor de Blasio did not call the bombing in Chelsea terrorism. He did call it today.
Yes.
The bombs didn't go off, but he made that declaration, as did House Speaker Paul Ryan a short time ago at this rally. When we come back, less than 2 weeks to go until the midterm elections, we'll pick some races to look at.